make sure I keep my spot. I'm going to switch places. Good. All right. I'm going to go down to the lowest part of the stage. As I call you in, will you please come to the stand? President Elias Diggins. President-elect Marshall P. Travis. First Vice President Amanda Lambert. Second Vice President Darren Siegler. Third Vice President Louis Quinones Jr. Secretary Eddie K. Lance. Treasurer Kimberly Lyle. Your 3-year members for the Board of Directors are Tiffany Lance, Gary Palmer, Julie Rich Shumpert, Michael Tellerico. 2-year members for the Board of Directors are Joseph E. Dempsey, Kevin Harley, Robert Leslie Hood, Sean Laughlin. Your 1-year members of the Board of Directors are Sam L. Davis, Mark Faulksall, Penny Perry Bonnery, Robert Slater, Parliamentary Wayne Dickey, Sergeant at Arms Erica Frierson, Chaplain Jose Cannon Jr. I am your immediate past president. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you your Board of Directors for the coming year. We look forward to a productive and engaging year ahead for the American Jail Association with these dedicated board members. Elias Diggins, come to the podium and be sworn in as president. If you want to take pictures, come on up, okay? Please raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear.
I do solemnly swear.
To support and defend.
To support and defend.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
And I do solemnly swear.
And I do solemnly swear.
To abide by the bylaws.
To abide by the bylaws.
Of the American Jail Association.
The American Jail Association.
And that I will at all times.
And I will at all times.
Perform the duties and responsibilities.
Perform the duties and responsibilities.
Of the office of President.
The office of President.
To the best of my abilities.
To the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
By the authority vested in me by the American Jail Association Board of Directors, I hereby proclaim you duly installed in your new office.
Thank you. Board, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear. To support and defend. The Constitution of the United States of America. And I do solemnly swear. To abide by the bylaws. Of the American Jail Association. And that I will, at all times, perform the duties and responsibilities of the Office of Board of Directors to the best of my ability, So help me God. Congratulations. Please take your seats. While they're going to their seats, I first want to thank all of you for staying. I know this is a long meeting, business meeting always is, but we appreciate all of those who have stayed with us this afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
We could do better than that. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
It is my honor and privilege to be the 38th president of the American Jail Association. Let me begin first by thanking God for blessing me with the opportunity that this truly is. But for his grace and mercy, I am not sure where I will be. I would also like to thank my beautiful wife, Leslie, seated here in the front. For her love and unwavering support, and to my children, Kennedy, who's back home in Colorado, and Brooklyn, who's sitting here, my son, Christian, and my other two, I think, must have went to the restroom. So I'll have to slow down on the water. We're going to miss Dad's speech. I hope they come back in time. I'm also joined today by my mom and dad, Elvira and Ivory O'Rourke. I can never repay them for instilling in me the values that have made me the man that I am today. I'm also very grateful and appreciative beyond measure for my relatives and friends here from Denver and also Texas who have traveled all this way to be with us. And there are so many of them that I can spend most of my time reading off their names. So to each of them collectively, I say your presence means the world to me. Thank you. Let me express my admiration of our organization to allow me to serve you and hope that you share in the gratitude that I have for the American Jail Association staff. The work that they do every day to keep us afloat truly is amazing. If you have a moment while you are here, please stop by a booth, or if you see them walking around, just reach out to them and say thank you. I think they are unsung heroes. I really want to give a shout out to Elisa Barnum. Elisa, would you stand up? She is our, she's very humble. She's our conference coordinator, and she does such a fabulous job. I would also be remiss if I did not acknowledge my fellow board members who are the most dedicated group of volunteers any association could ask for. Immediate past president Ronaldo Myers has done an outstanding job of making our organization stronger and in representing the membership. I hope to do the same, as I do not take this responsibility lightly and know that I need to uphold the tenets of the American Jail Association. It should also be said that the past 3 years have been historic for the AJA, as I am the third consecutive African American to hold this seat. Ronaldo was preceded by past President John Johnson of Miami, and prior to him, only one other African American held this position. Past President Samuel F. Saxton held the seat exactly 30 years before John, from 1987 to 1988. He has gone home to glory, and we honor his memory and service to the AJA. It goes without saying that the three of us know that in this association, you truly are judged by the content of your character and not by the color of your skin. Those two pretty little girls that came in are my other daughters, Taylor and Morgan. During this year that I will lead as president, I will ask each member in joining me to continue to focus on the challenges that we've been working on and support the new goals that we're launching, including 2 new efforts which will be introduced that are emerging topics. The first is gender equity in jails, and the second is revisiting the cash bail system. Let me take a moment to talk about gender equity in jails across America. Today, I am officially issuing a challenge to every sheriff, director of corrections, and jail administrator in the country to create a gender equity commission in their agency to address this topic without delay. It's time to have a national conversation about gender equity in jails, because if we are not addressing an issue, then we are ignoring it. This is not a problem for women alone. This is a challenge for us all, because anytime that our daughters, our wives, our sisters, and our mothers are suffering, we all are. When I think about my children, I want to leave this world a better place than what it is today. And if someday they want to work in this field, I hope we will have already torn down the walls and barriers that have prevented them from joining SWAT teams, from women being at the table for critical conversations, from being promoted or teaching at our academies. We know there's work to do in jails across America, and we can make changes that are long overdue to improve the lives of women. Gender equality and equity is one of the civil rights movements of our time. And I'd like to take a brief moment just to recognize some of the pioneers who are still in this room this afternoon. I'm going to ask Susan McCampbell, who's seated at the table to my right, and Andy Moss, who I hope is still here. Andy, are you still here? Andy Moss, I don't see the other two. Shirley Morris-Mill, is she here? Or Terry McDonald? Please continue to stand, ladies, just for a moment. These two are truly pioneers when it comes to gender equity and equality in jails and corrections across America. They have worked for decades to raise the flag on the issue. And I'd like for the American Jail Association to give them a round of applause for all of that work. What they have done will serve as the supporting system for what the American Jail Association is preparing to launch. We have created a gender equity committee, which will serve as the hub for the entire nation about how to get this right. And the work that Andy and Susan and others have done really will help us as we begin to launch this effort. You know, it's been many, many years that we have thought about doing this work. In Denver, we started in 2014, and across the country, we're beginning to see agencies who are actually beginning to see how this can help their departments. I know Los Angeles has done so, Miami has done so, locally, we have Shelby County, Davidson County. My good friend Mark Bolton in the Louisville Metro Jail are doing this work across the country from border to border and coast to coast. We know that this is something that's going to help us as we begin to change the lives of women in jails, not just those that are incarcerated, but also those that work beside us and as we interact with women in the community as well. Separately and distinctly, we must also pay attention to the way that we're incarcerating and returning women offenders back to the community, especially when 80% of them are mothers and their children are at higher risk of becoming offenders. Think of the force multiplier that occurs for that family when an incarcerated mother goes back home better prepared to take care of herself and her children. We are affecting generations to come by investing in these women today. When these women are better, their families are better. When their families are better, our communities are safer. Let's focus on what it truly means to be gender responsive and trauma informed in our work. This coming Tuesday morning, we'll be having a panel discussion at 8:30 a.m. about this topic. And I want to thank President-elect Marsha Travis for chairing the newly formed AJA Gender Equity Committee. We will be joined by Erica Frierson, who is our new Sergeant at Arms, as well as Shirley Moore-Smearl and Terry McDonald. That dialogue is something that you don't want to miss. And we are encouraging every woman that's in this room, but also every man to be present for that discussion as we begin this journey. Here's something else that I want to make clear. As a man, I am not speaking for women. I don't want anyone to mistake me for saying these things on behalf of women. But as a leader, I know this to be a priority. I recommend other men take a similar approach when you accept this challenge. In the same way that people who are not of color helped open the doors for leaders such as Dolores Clara Fernandez Huerta to fight discrimination for National Farm Workers Association, or open the door for Fannie Lou Hamer who fought for the voting rights of women, or open the door for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. or Cesar Chavez, it is time that all leaders, regardless of their race, religion, or political affiliation, open the door to the conversation on how this should be addressed in our agencies. In the 1960s, when the civil rights movement was perhaps at its strongest, people from all races and backgrounds understood how the time they were in was truly transformational. They also understood that the movement had to be led by people of color who could bring forward how and why the challenges affected them. As a person who is blessed to be in a position of leadership, I'm opening the door to this discussion, and I humbly ask the women of the AJA to lead these conversations. Together, we will get this done. Let me transition very briefly, because I know everybody's ready to go, to talking about the cash bail system, revisiting the cash bail system. During my 25 years with the Denver Sheriff's Department, there have been some people in our custody that I never will forget. One of those was an individual named Willie. I don't recall exactly what he was in for, but it was a very minor infraction for which he was held on a $100 bond. He would tell the other deputies and I how he had a job waiting on him, how his girlfriend was about to have a child, and he needed to get out to work so he could help him. He told us that he could not depend on his family for anything. And after sitting in custody for months, he went to court and got a time-served sentence and went home. But for the fact that Willie and others like him are financially challenged, he likely would not have sat in jail for months on an infraction for only a $100 bond. He was probably not a risk to the community, had local ties, and had a child on the way. Across the country, detaining and jailing people simply because they do not have the financial means to bond out is a travesty of justice. Today, Willie is an inmate in the Colorado Department of Corrections, finishing a 3-year sentence for a minor felony. I'm not sure if his path in life was set by that short stay many years ago, but what if it was? Can we change the future of people who are just like him that are in our jails? As many of you can tell your own stories about people like Willie who you've come across in your work over the years, it's our responsibility as a society to speak up for those who do not have a voice. There are some people that are real threats to our community, and we must keep the rights of victims at the forefront of any conversation regarding these changes. But we cannot continue with the current broken system of locking every person up just because they've committed a crime. Real change in the criminal justice system starts with each of us, and as it says in Proverbs 31:8 and 9, speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of those that are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy. I close with this. This great nation of ours is safer and stronger, partly because of the men and women who work in jails across the country. The two issues of gender equity and bail reform will help us to make substantial, lasting change for the lives of people. Let us do everything we can to support the real reason that we are all called to service, for the greater good of others. May God bless each one of you, and God bless the American Jail Association.